What's going on, everyone? I'm back here Thursday morning, couple hours before the start of week 9, so you know what time it is. I've got my game by game picks for this week, uh, outright, by the spread, and as always, locks of the week as well. So I'll do my best to upload this video on time. If not, I apologize, but let's get right into it. So our first game of the week, it's a divisional matchup, Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. And starting with the Bills, I think they've been a pleasant surprise this year, in contention for that top spot with the Patriots in their division. And that's one of the reasons why they made that trade for Kelvin Benjamin. Haven't really had a chance to talk about that since it happened, honestly, only a couple hours after I released my trade deadline video. But I can get into it a little bit here. I think it's a good addition for the Bills for Tyrod Taylor. The move made sense. A lot of the previous Panthers coaching staff is in Buffalo right now, so there's connections there. And adding another, big receiver for Taylor, I think that'll be nice. But honestly, I don't think Benjamin is going to be available for this game. I think it's too short notice. Trade goes in Tuesday. This game is Thursday. Short week. Playbook still has to be studied. Opponent has to be studied. So I think they will probably hold out Kelvin Benjamin this week, and they won't have that advantage in their arsenal. But if anything, this move shows that, the Bills are putting their chips in the middle of the table and saying, we've got a chance at this. We're playing better than we expected. Let's add another piece and make a push for the playoffs. So that's an encouraging piece for the Bills. On the other side of the ball, we've got the New York Jets, who, again, pleasant surprise in football. I thought, as I'm sure with a lot of other people, that they'd be one of the laughing stocks of the NFL this year, that they might tank or they might be in the top 3 in terms of picks for next year's draft. But, they put together some solid performances, some very close performances in losses. Miami Dolphins, the Patriots come to mind, and they've won the games that they should win. And as of late, they've played good football. Josh McCown has played pretty well, his limited turnovers, and honestly, this is probably my upset of the week here. I like the New York Jets at home. With the Bills, we've seen them kind of do an up and down performance on defense. We've seen weeks where they play great defense and other weeks where their defense kind of gets exposed. And honestly, I'm just still not sold on the Buffalo Bills offense. I think Tyrod Taylor, he's not that game changer. You're not going to win a game because of him. The main guy that I look at is Shady McCoy. Are the Bills going to put him to use if they center this game around Shady, which they've sometimes have the tendency to go away from? I think that's their magic ticket to winning this game. But I think just with the momentum the Jets have had, this being a home game, if it was in Buffalo, I'd probably go with the Bills, but to me, it's a close call, kind of a coin flip thing. I'll take the New York Jets at home in a close game that's probably won late. I'll go Jets winning this game outright. As far as the spread is concerned, the Jets are at +2.5, so I'm going to go and pick them here, obviously, to cover the spread on their end because I've got them winning. Moving on, we've got another divisional clash, Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. And this is an important game for both these teams because they've both got a chance to win this division as of right now or get a wild card spot if they continue on winning. So a divisional game counts twice as much. And looking at the Falcons, I look at that offense. Obviously, they were able to get the win last week versus the Jets, but not a convincing win on their end, in my opinion. And to me, that goes all the way back to the problems we've seen with the Falcons offensively. They haven't been able to recreate what they had last year, but it makes sense. Losing Shanahan, Matt Ryan not having that MVP year again, and all that translates to a lack in production offensively. Now, with the Panthers, on their end, offensively, they just lost Kelvin Benjamin, so that definitely won't help Cam Newton. Greg Olsen's still not there, so they're a little bit devoid of weapons in my opinion, and Cam Newton has struggled in these divisional matchups before. We saw it with the Bucs last week. We saw it with the Saints. Offensively, the Panthers have not performed well in those games. Last week versus the Bucs, it was a defensive effort that got them the win. They had several turnovers on the Bucs. They held Jameis without a single touchdown in a 17-3 win. So to me, the Panthers do hold the edge defensively, but offensively, I give the edge to the Falcons. And specifically, the one place that Panthers defense, in my opinion, can be beat is the secondary. That's that point of weakness for them. And the Falcons, last time they played last year, Julio Jones had 300 yards. And usually in these games, he goes off. I think the Falcons are built in a way where they can take advantage of this Panthers defense. We've seen it before with elite passers that they can put up yards on that defense, and I do think that's what's going to happen this week. I expect the Falcons, it'll probably be a close game, but when it's all said and done, I think they'll be able to get theirs and get some points through the air on the Panthers. So for that reason, I do like the Falcons better in this game. I'll go ahead, I'll pick them to win even though they're on the road. As far as the spread is concerned, Panthers are at -2.5, and like I said, I just think that this is a nice matchup for the Falcons in the one area where they excel in, and in the one area where the Panthers are flawed in. So again, I pick the Falcons as far as the spread is concerned. Continuing on, we have got a clash with the Bengals versus the Jaguars in Jacksonville. And look, to me, this game screams mismatch because we've got the Bengals offense versus the Jaguars defense. And specifically, the Bengals offensive line has struggled all year. They're missing pieces. And Andy Dalton has struggled again recently to get the ball to AJ Green, in my opinion. Obviously, getting that coordinator change offensively has helped them a little bit, but by no means have they been world beaters as far as offensive performances are concerned. And who do they get this week? Oh, right. They get the Jaguars, who've probably been one of the best defensive teams all year. They've got a front seven that has put together some crazy sack games. And on the backside, they've got Jalen Ramsey, who's probably been one of the best corners all year. And he's going to go up against AJ Green, so I could see him totally blanketing him and shutting Green down. And that defensive line matched up versus the offensive line of Cincy, I could see them wreaking havoc on Andy Dalton, getting to him a bunch, pressuring him a bunch. So to me, that's why this game is a complete mismatch. And while the Jaguars themselves aren't world beaters offensively, they've got a formula that works. Run the ball, limit Blake Bortles' pass attempts, that way limiting his mistakes, and mainly have the game go through Leonard Fournette, who's going to be back, and have the defense cap off the games. And I think that's a perfect formula versus the Bengals. I like the Jaguars to win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it in dominating fashion, have a couple turnovers for touchdowns defensively. So I like them to win this game probably by double digits when it's all said and done. As far as the spread goes, Jaguars are at -4.5, so I like them to cover the spread as well. Continuing on, we have got the Denver Broncos at the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is a matchup that at the start of the season, maybe we thought both these teams would be closer in hand record-wise, but that's only half the equation right now because the Broncos are at 3-4, Eagles, best team in all of football, at the 7-1 record. Looking at the Broncos, the issue has been the offense. Defensively, they've got their playmakers. They can keep them in games for the most part, but at some point they do get tired, and it gets back to the offense where the Broncos have made their change in quarterback, going from Simeon to Osweiler, hoping he can provide a spark. Obviously, with Osweiler, he knows the coaching staff there, he knows the players there, he's got that history there. The problem has been, offensively, the Broncos just can't do much. Simeon wasn't that franchise quarterback. He had some decent games, but that was where the defense pretty much just handed him the football with 20 yards to go, and that hasn't been happening as of late. And honestly, I think that offense can't play much worse than they had already. So if anything, getting Osweiler in there should be at least a small boost to that team. But when you look at who this team is going up against in the Philadelphia Eagles, it's tough to go with the Broncos in this game. Eagles, obviously best record in all of football. Wentz has played like an MVP. Now they're adding Ajayi to that team. I don't know if he plays in this game, and even if he does, I would expect the Eagles to focus on what they do best, and that's passing the ball, putting the ball in Wentz's hands, and letting him do the rest. Defensively, the Eagles coming off a really nice performance versus the 49ers, and I know it's the 49ers, but still, the Eagles do have some pieces defensively, and I do think they can cause problems for the Denver offense. This game is in Philly. I like the Eagles to win outright. To me, they just have too many weapons offensively. Wentz has been playing like an MVP, and even though this is his toughest challenge defensively, I do think he'll be able to make enough plays, and on the flip side, the Eagles will be able to make enough plays defensively, kind of that bend but don't break mentality. So I like the Eagles to win this game outright. As far as the spread is concerned though, Eagles are at -7.5, and like I mentioned, I don't think the Broncos can play any worse offensively. I think Osweiler will provide a small spark, and I do think the Denver defense can keep it somewhat close. So for that reason, I'll actually go ahead and take the Broncos to cover the spread. If I had to guess, probably a touchdown score as far as the winning side is concerned. So I could see the Eagles winning by 7 or maybe 6. So for that reason, I like the Broncos as far as the spread is concerned. Continuing on, we have got the Baltimore Ravens at the Tennessee Titans, and with the Ravens, they're at 4-4, coming off their complete demolition of the Dolphins. They blanked them, had a great defensive performance. The one thing we did see was Joe Flacco take that nasty hit and go in the concussion protocol, but he is expected to play Week 9 versus the Titans, so that's comforting. And as far as the Titans are concerned, they're coming off a bye. They've had a little bit extra time to prepare. But I do think this is, again, one of those mismatches with the Titans. They've been up and down offensively all year. Their running game, a lot of question marks there. DeMarco Murray hasn't been the player that we saw from last year. Derrick Henry at times has taken over that backfield. So I think there's still that question mark in the running game for the Titans. If anything, I think they should focus on Mariota as the top runner in this game, especially versus a very stout Ravens defense. I know they're getting Corey Davis back, the Titans that is, but I do think that he might be a little bit limited in terms of snaps coming back from injury, and just because the matchup isn't the best defensively versus the Ravens. And I'm talking about the Ravens as if they're going to get this win assuredly, but I will say they've got their problems of their own. That offense for the Ravens, I've been saying it all year, it's just stagnant. It's good news that Woodhead is practicing and that he's going to be eligible to return soon, but to me, I just think that they don't have enough offensive weapons, and they just can't be relied on offensively. The talent of that team is the defense. From time to time, the offense will show up, and I kind of feel the same way about the Titans. I think they're kind of a middle-of-the-road team. To me, I'm going to give the edge to the Ravens in this game because Joe Flacco is back. If he was sitting out, I would say I'd go with the Titans, but I'll go with Flacco being back and playing with that incredible defense behind him. So I give the Ravens the slight edge, even though it's on the road. I like this to be a close game, probably low scoring considering the two offenses that are involved, something along the lines of 20-17. I give the edge to the Ravens, and as far as the spread is concerned, Titans are at -5.5. So even if I did go with the Titans, I think that's a really high spread in terms of their favor. So I pick the Ravens to cover the spread on their end. Next, we've got another divisional clash, this time Colts versus the Texans in Houston. And obviously, the first thing that has to be mentioned here Deshaun Watson tearing his ACL. He's done for the year in practice. Very unfortunate. You know, he proved so many people wrong, including myself. Was having a great year, some great performances, one of the best rookie years at the quarterback position that we've ever seen, and unfortunately it's cut short because of the ACL injury. Now, what does that mean? Well, Tom Savage is going to get reinserted back into that offense, and we saw what that team was with Savage versus with Watson. To me, obviously, this takes a toll in a big one on every single playmaker offensively. Lamar Miller, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller. Now, also, Texans are going to be without Dwayne Brown, but they didn't have him for a big part of the season. Traded him to Seattle, but honestly, I think Tom Savage needs all the help he can get at this point. I will say that this is a week where maybe the Texans got a little bit lucky because the Colts, one of the worst teams in all of football without Andrew Luck. There's no questions about that. And Andrew Luck isn't going to be available to them for the remainder of the year. That was made public. So we know what we can expect from the Colts. They can be beat defensively, so I would expect Savage to heavily target Hopkins and Fuller. Mistakes will be made, and if the Texans do go down, it's going to be tough for them to climb back into this game, would be my guess. They've definitely got more talent offensively, but again, it's kind of a situation where without a quarterback, you can only do so much. Defensively, again, tolls have taken their injury on the Texans, but I would say they're still a better defensive team than the Colts. So on paper, I do like the Texans to win this game. Obviously, without Watson, I think it's going to be a lot closer than expected. As far as the spread was concerned, it's minus 12.5 for the Texans at home. After that Watson injury, I can't go with the Texans to cover by that much. So even though I like them to win outright, I have to go with the Colts to cover the spread. Moving forward, we have got the LA Rams versus the New York Giants, and this game is in New York. Both teams coming off a bye, so they've had time to prepare. With the Rams, you know, they're another very nice surprise, sitting at 5-2, and the Giants not so much. Pretty much everything has gone wrong for them with all their injuries. They're sitting at 1-6, and honestly, offensively, they are limited without Odell Beckham. We saw what that team is without him. Everyone struggles a little bit. Ingram had been filling in as Eli's top pass catcher without Sterling Shepard, but at least this week Sterling will be back, so that'll be, I hope, a nice little boost for the Giants offensively. But when it's all said and done, I think we've seen that Rams team being reinvented as far as their identity offensively, and I don't think that the Giants can hang with them if the Rams start putting up points, which we know they can do. The Giants defense hasn't been as great as we had all thought they would be. They are definitely beatable. I like the Rams to win this game. You know, Eli Manning hasn't played that well. Jared Goff is coming into his own in comparison. Gurley has played great, and the Giants on the other end, that running game just hasn't been able to get going all year. So I'll give the edge to the Rams. I like their offensive line. I like their quarterback. I like their rushing attack more. Maybe don't have as many weapons in the passing game as the Giants do, but I don't think that'll matter. I think the Rams have, with Donald up front in that defensive line, I think they'll be able to pressure Eli, and I think they'll be able to get to him. When it's all said and done, I like the Rams to win this game. I think they're just the more complete team right now. And with the spread, the Giants are at plus 3.5. I think the Rams can cover that. I think they can win by 4 or 5 points. I like them to pull away late. So for that reason, give me the Rams to win outright, and give me the Rams as far as the spread is concerned too. Staying in the NFC, we've got another divisional clash. Tampa Bay Bucs at the New Orleans Saints. And these teams right now in opposite sides of the spectrum. Bucs 2-5, Saints 5-2. And I've been saying it all year. After the Saints started out 0-2, they've put together 5 straight wins, and I really like how they've looked as far as contenders in the NFC. I think that behind the Eagles, they're the second best team in that conference, and they've been led by much improved New Orleans defense, and obviously we know what the story is. You've got Drew Brees, you've got all your weapons offensively. Their running game has been incredible since Adrian Peterson left. Ingram has played great, same for Alvin Kamara. So offensively, the Saints can compete with anyone, and with an improved defense, it makes them a really strong team. Now on the other end, the Bucs, Jameis Winston, they've been up and down all year. Pretty much, it depends what kind of offensive performance do they get from Winston. Is it one where he can throw for, over 300 yards and a couple touchdowns, or is he going to get limited to 150 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions? We kind of saw that last week, but I will say this New Orleans Saints defense, I think it can be taken advantage of more than that of the Panthers. So I do expect Jameis Winston to bounce back and the Buccaneers to put up a little bit more as far as the points are concerned. But, defensively, they're nothing special, the Bucs. And I think the Saints in New Orleans with Drew Brees coming off of a game where they didn't score that many points, I think they're going to come back and put up a very impressive total on the Bucs. I like the Saints to win this game. They've been the more consistent team all year. We've seen as of late the defense get better. So for that reason, I like the Saints to win this game. It could be close, but I think at the end, the Saints pull away. I like them to win outright. As far as the spread is concerned, they are at -7.5. And like I said, I do think when it's all said and done, this game can be close. And if the Saints do pull away late, I don't think it'll be close to double digits. I think it'll be by a touchdown. So I'll go ahead. I'll pick the Buccaneers. I think that they can probably get a couple of garbage time points at the end. I'll take them to cover the spread. Continuing with the theme of divisional games, we've got the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. And with the 49ers still winless, obviously they added Garoppolo, but I wouldn't be surprised if Garoppolo doesn't play at all this year. Shanahan and his playbook take a really long time to get adjusted to, and at this point, there just is no sense in having Garoppolo go out there with this squad, risk injury, anything like that. Just let him get familiar with the system and with the players. Also, 49ers losing Garcon, so that doesn't help at this point. It's Carlos Hyde and Marquise Goodwin on that team offensively. And with the Cardinals on the other end, they're 3-4. Without Palmer, this team just isn't that much of a threat. Not that they were with him, to be honest with you. The offense is going to have to go through Adrian Peterson and Fitzgerald. I do think they get lucky here. Nice matchup. 49ers, they're weak defensively, so I predict that either AP or Fitzgerald is going to have a big game, if not both. I can see Stan targeting the best receiver on that team. That is without a doubt Fitzgerald, and I could see them just decide to take the game out of his hands and just run Adrian Peterson into the ground and hope that's enough to beat the 49ers team. Defensively, the Cardinals are better. They've got more playmakers, especially in the secondary. So I give the advantage to the Cardinals all the way around. I like them to win this game. As far as the spread is concerned, 49ers are at +2.5 at home. I think the Cardinals can win more convincingly. So for that reason, give me the Cardinals to win this game as far as the spread is concerned too. Next, we've got the Redskins at the Seahawks in Seattle. And, the Redskins coming off a disappointing loss versus the Cowboys last week, but I think the game was a lot closer than the score indicated. At halftime, the game was only a couple points away, and during that torrential downpour, I can't blame the Redskins for just kind of not being able to pass the ball too much. When it was all said and done, it came down to the Cowboys just being able to run the ball down Washington's throat. So that's why I think they were at a disadvantage in that game. they're sitting at 3-4, whereas the Seahawks, they're on a winning streak. They're at 5-2, coming from their great clash versus Deshaun Watson and the Texans, that back and forth game. Great game, one of the best ones we've seen all year, and kind of like what we expected, that Seattle offense is back in the groove of things, because we've seen this several years. There's periods in time where the Seattle offense just is very stagnant, and then they find their mojo and they go on a tear and they put up 30 plus points week to week. So that's what's been going on lately. Now this game is in Seattle. Russell Wilson just added Dwayne Brown to that offensive line, so that helps him. That's going to have him get more time to find his receivers. Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin, all those guys are playing better. Paul Richardson. Offensively, I'll give the edge to the Seahawks. You know, both these teams are void of running games right now, so it comes down to quarterback play and receivers. And while I do like Kirk Cousins, how he's played as of late, excluding last week, I do think Seattle have more playmakers offensively at this point in time. Defensively, you got to give the edge to the Seahawks, I think. And I say that mainly because the game is in Seattle, and obviously the Seahawks defense that we've seen can't be compared to the one of year's end, but still, at home, I think they're a different team, especially defensively. The Redskins, they do have Josh Norman back, so that's nice. I think he will be able to shut down one part of the field, but when it's all said and done, I give the Seahawks the edge in this game. I think it will be a lot closer than people expect, though. Like I said, that Seahawks defense, not as good as we remember them to be. And I don't expect any torrential downpour again. I think Cousins will be able to pass the ball a little bit more. And I do like the Seahawks to win outright, but the spread is at -7.5 for them. I think it'll be closer. I think the Redskins will be able to keep it close, and then the Seahawks will probably go up by a touchdown or something late. And for that reason, I'll take the Redskins as far as the spread is concerned. -7.5, a little bit high for me. I think this game gets decided by 6 or 7 points. Continuing on, we've got what could be one of the more entertaining matchups of this week. Kansas City Chiefs at the Dallas Cowboys. Chiefs sitting at 6-2. Were able to get back to their winning ways, beating the Broncos, and the Cowboys were able to get a big divisional win versus the Redskins, sitting at 4-3. And obviously, all the talk here has been centered around Ezekiel Elliott. Will he play? Won't he play? Well, long story short, he is playing. The courts ruled against him. The NFLPA had another appeal, and they were able to get him to play this week and postpone any further rulings. And honestly, with the Cowboys, it's going to be this kind of talk every single week, and it has been like that even up to this point. Will Zeke play? Won't he play this year, next year? But I would say treat this Cowboys team as if Zeke is available, and that is the case this week. Obviously, a big boost for them in the running game. They are a better team when he is out on the field. But I will say this, I do like the Kansas City Chiefs. They've got a good defense. It'll show up sometimes and it'll be a little bit lackluster, but they do have that bend but don't break mentality that you see in other teams as well. Offensively, I do like what the Chiefs can bring. The Cowboys defense, they're not that great in my opinion. They can give up points, and the Chiefs have got their own set of playmakers. They've got Kareem Hunt, they've got Travis Kelce, they've got Tyreek Hill, and Alex Smith. You might not like him in his style of play, but he plays turnover-free football, and he is a game manager. So I do like what the Chiefs can bring offensively. I do like what they can bring defensively as well. I think they're the more complete team, and even though the Cowboys will have Zeke, I do think all those talks at some point do get to be a distraction. Even though this game is at Dallas, I like the Chiefs to win outright. They're the more complete team in my opinion when you combine offense and defense into one. As far as the spread is concerned, Cowboys are at only -0.5 point. To me, that's basically completely a wash, and for that reason, I'll go ahead and I'll take the Chiefs to win this game and to cover the spread on their end. getting to Sunday night, we have got the Oakland Raiders at the Miami Dolphins, and with this game, we've got two underperforming teams for the most part. Raiders at 3-5, Dolphins at 4-3, and even though the Dolphins are at a winning record right now, I do think they're not as good as their record would indicate, and I think in large part they realized that themselves as well. That's why they got rid of Ajayi. That's why, there were rumors about them shopping Landry, things like that. So I think there's a lot more turmoil in that locker room than we're led to believe. Jay Cutler, he's going to be potentially back this game, but he won't be 100% with his rib injury. So again, the Dolphins won't be in full strength offensively. We saw what kind of team they were without Jay Cutler last week, and I think there'll be something similar to it with an injured Jay Cutler. And on the flip side, the Raiders, they've been up and down all year, but I do think they have more weapons than the Dolphins do offensively. And when it comes to this game, that's what I look at. Oakland offense versus Miami offense. I think the Oakland Raiders have more pieces. I give them the edge as far as the quarterback is concerned. Running game, let's call it a draw. Neither of these teams have really been able to get it going. But as far as weapons offensively in the receiver position, again, I'll give the edge to the Raiders. They've got Cooper, they've got Crabtree. I like those two guys, a really solid pair. And I would say, I think the Raiders can take advantage of this defense. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Raiders are going to win this game and win it convincingly because I think their offense kind of comes back and gets awoken a little bit. So give me the Raiders to win this game outright. As far as the spread is concerned, Dolphins are at plus 3.5. And like I said, we saw what happened to them last week versus the Ravens. And by no means do the Raiders have that good of a defense, but they can put up points as long as they get in the groove of things. And I do think that'll be the case. So I say that the Raiders are going to be able to cover the spread on their end. So I'll go with the Raiders to cover the spread as well. And finally, Monday Night Football, wrapping things up with a classic divisional game. We've got the Lions at the Green Bay Packers. And, maybe not as hyped up a game as we thought it would be. And in large part, that's because of the Aaron Rodgers injury. Unfortunate, but that is the case. So many injuries this year. But as far as breaking down this game goes, Lions at 3-4, Packers at 4-3. Lions, they had a disappointing loss versus the Steelers last week. It was in their hands, but they just weren't able to close out the game. With the Packers coming off the bye week, they've been able to prepare a little bit extra for this game. But I will say this, the Lions on paper, going up a team without Aaron Rodgers, should have the advantage. I think they're a better team defensively. Packers just have so many injuries, and offensively, without Aaron Rodgers, the Packers just aren't the same team, and for that reason, you got to give the Lions the edge. But you never know with these games, these divisional games in Lambeau Field, late night, probably going to be a cold game, so we don't know how that's going to affect Stafford and his throwing abilities. So I think this game will be closer than people expect, but on paper, the Lions should win this game. I think this is their window to kind of start making progression towards that division title in the NFC North. They've already beaten the Vikings. Hopefully, for their case, they can beat the Packers here, even though it's a road game. They've got more weapons at this point. So for that reason, I'd like the Lions to win outright. But as far as the spread is concerned, this is tough for me because the Packers are only at plus 2.5. If the spread was higher in terms of that regard, I would go with the Packers. But since I think it is such a low spread, and I think this game, when it's all said and done, could be decided by a field goal, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I got to go with the Lions. I think barely do they get this win. Like I said, right around 3 to 7 points. So give me the Lions to win outright and to cover the spread. So having all of our outright pick'em games in the books, we can transition to locks of the week. And I've got a couple for you this week. First of all, I like the Jaguars versus the Bengals in Jacksonville. I think that's just a very big mismatch. Offense versus defense favors the Jaguars in a big way. Give me the Jaguars to win this game. Next, I like the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Broncos. Even though, this game I expect it to be closer than people believe. I expect the Broncos to put together a good effort. I don't think they can hang offensively with the Eagles. Eagles have looked like the best team in all of football. I like them to win this game versus an offensively challenged Denver Broncos squad. From there, I like the New Orleans Saints versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think in New Orleans, this being a divisional game, offensively the Saints are loaded, playing better defense. Give me the Saints to win at home as another lock of the week. And then finally, give me the Arizona Cardinals versus the San Francisco 49ers. That's a little bit more shaken going out on a limb, but I think the Cardinals just a better team right now. Even without Carson Palmer, they'll be able to run the ball with Adrian Peterson. They'll be able to find Larry Fitzgerald. And defensively, I think it'll be tough for the 49ers to move the ball on the Cardinals. So with that being said, that concludes my locks for this week. Let me know, what did you guys think? Did you agree with my outright pick'em games as far as the spread is concerned and with my locks of the week? Let me know. As always, if you guys have any questions, hit me up in the comments section. And if you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos.